Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wake Up Missoula. I am your host, Scott Ramf, here to usher you into the weekend of August 2nd. Next week is Fair Week, so the Western Montana State Fair. They usually have a premiere date on Wednesday, but they're starting a little bit early this year, starting on Tuesday, so I'll talk a little bit more about it later in my show, but I just want to give you the download on what's going on next week, along with MCAT, which we're doing our horror camps next week. So this week we kind of took an off week, just normal MCAT week, normal hours, nothing much going on here. But next week we're going back to our regular camp hours, in which we'll have some lessons and other plans for people who want to learn how to edit, be a part of MCAT, be a producer here at MCAT, producing their own shows, very much like what I'm doing right now for you guys. Most of those things happen at 6 o'clock, Monday through Wednesday, with some afternoon stuff happening for Thursdays, but you can check out more information by going on to mcat.org. So far the city resources on their website at ci.missoula.mt.us for downed trees and warnings for those going near and around downed trees. They have also mentioned the drop-off sites around Missoula, so if you have a lot of debris and stuff that needs to be taken care of, that you can take yourself, you can go to Garden City Compost, which is at 1125 Clark Fork Lane. Most of these are going to be open from 8 to 5 p.m. Friday and Saturdays. Fort Missoula, they're doing at the 36th Street lot. They also have one at Fort Missoula Pond via the 40th Street Avenue from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. most days. Larchmont Triangle access post sliding road. That's usually the road kind of like right behind there, right as you're going down Reserve, if you wanted to take that turn off of the old Highway 93, kind of like where you see that giant pedestrian bike bridge that goes over Reserve Street. You take your first right after that bridge, and then you just take your next right in the main road, and you can get there as well. Russell Street also has one between YMCA and Russell Elementary. And then last is McCormick Park, which is just close to downtown. To report any debris, contact the services for the city, down trees at missoulaparks.org, or you can call them at 406-552-6253. Again, that number is 552-6253. They want to mention that they don't want you to call 911. They put a lot of radio ads out there basically saying, it's like, hey, quit calling 911 for downed trees. They're downed. There's nothing that can happen, so call this number instead, 552-6253, for reporting any downed trees, and Missoula crews and folks will get to them eventually. Local government has guidelines based on state law, but there are always wiggle room to make policy changes year-round. One of these policies would put it on a freeze on licenses for marijuana dispensaries, which is aimed to curb the uptick on youth use as the city deals with demands for change through citizen and public health officials. They're also covering a little bit of that homeless ordinance that took effect last week for law enforcement. So Budget and Finance Committee is talking about some money that are going to be putting towards this one. And so I'm sure you probably read in articles that the city of Missoula is allocating about $1 million to help curb and facilitate and help provide services to those who are emergency sheltering in certain designated park areas, in which they just printed out some new information this week for even the people here at the Missoula Public Library to hand out to individuals who use the library for their services like internet and shelter. So today's meeting, Monday's meeting that we did, was the Northside Pedestrian Bridge is due to reopen, and the community plans to celebrate today when it's been open since around Tuesday. The renovation bridge should last for another 50 to 100 years. And so this is the Northside Pedestrian Bridge that went over the pass. The pedestrian bridge has been closed since October 2022 after engineers reported the towers had deteriorated and became structurally unstable. The structure was built in 1999, and one of the biggest takeaways from what I noticed, especially with David Selvage, who is the project manager, saying that they made this structure out of cement and not concrete, which cement has a life of about 15 to 30 years if you're lucky, which unfortunately it kind of went past due with that one as well. So there was a weird kind of thing going on there like that, and it felt like it was built and wasn't structurally sound at that particular time. But that was during an earlier meeting when they were talking about this. But we're going to jump over to Chris Foster, River Road Neighborhood, ask about their storm aftermath. So this is back to the storm that happened Wednesday last week.
Take this opportunity to thank the people at Northwest Energy and the phone and cable folks for getting us back online as soon as they did. We had 4 power poles down on River Road. There was a huge fir tree. It just dominoed them down. 2 large trees on Curtis Street took the power lines and the cables down on that street. And so we were expecting the worst, and it came along faster than we thought. So we had power in my neck of the woods by Friday afternoon, and the cable and internet came on yesterday morning. So thank you to all those people. I know they're not getting a lot of rest right now, and I just wanted them to know we appreciate all their hard work they're doing.
And I haven't heard too much in terms of people who are out of power or out of internet as of the last couple days. So no news is good news, as most people are getting back to some form of normal. The National Guard folks are at the fort to help those needing water and more, even though the grid is back on and in order. The water conservation request was removed Monday. A lot of the power, they had backup generators for the water system here in Missoula, and they asked people to conserve water, but they ended that on Monday. Mayor Andrea Davis reflects on the storm and the state of emergency that Gianforte, our governor of Montana, declared to get that National Guard and to see how much we can get our cost recoup in this statement.
What you saw, Mr. Foster, which was the result when the state declares an emergency, resources from state agencies can be deployed locally as well. So the National Guard was able to come in and help us distribute ice and water. And then other state agencies can also, their resources can be utilized. The state doesn't write the city or the county a check for us in this case, but they are able to utilize state resources in that case. We are also in process of, these are all the steps that you take with the assumption that we may be filing for a presidential declaration, which would allow us to access FEMA dollars. So it's yet to be determined.
And that was another big topic moving forward, including Bob Campbell, city council member, is concerned about the amount spent on the restoration of the North Side Bridge, which had some extra money put towards it in this last meeting for another $77,000.
We've put a substantial amount of money into the renovation of this bridge once again. I think just me personally, if I ain't gotten to the point where, I can't find myself supporting any more expenditure of money on this bridge at this point in time for what they want to use the $77,000 for. So with that, I'll be voting against this. Thank you.
All right, and so most of the other city council members spoke up in favor of more money going towards this bridge because of the amount of money that's already been spent, over $3 million. Eric Melson for City Council responds to comments.
One of the main complaints I heard from the north side was connectivity from their home to downtown and beyond, and the frustrations that I heard from the north side around their inability to move from their neighborhood to other desirable places of town were really sad. This is a basic form of infrastructure that we should be able to provide for our residents, whether they're on foot, in a wheelchair, on a bike, or any other modality, a skateboard or a scooter. And I am just so excited that this bridge is finally getting complete and will be open soon. So I'm very supportive of this and the changes that are being requested in terms of the fencing and the aesthetics. This has been a real hassle for the folks in the neighborhood for many years, and I'm just excited that this is finally getting reopened.
Yep. And speaking of folks from the neighborhood, we have folk from the Lower Rattlesnake, and they reflect on the reopening, and this is what Gracie Stanford had to say about this.
I don't know if you know this, but in Missoula, a lot of us don't like to drive. We like to walk and bike everywhere, myself included. And one of my very best friends, her mother lives just next to the bridge. She bought a condo there, and she rarely drives. And to be able to have this bridge back up and running means that she can get downtown again in a safe way. The walking path underneath Orange Street Bridge is a totally different conversation, but that's what people are using now. I try not to go there. I think most of us try not to go through there. It's long, you're gated in, it's not great. This is an excellent bridge for people to be able to use from.
All right, and that's Gracie Stanford talking a little bit more about that. And also I wanted to mention is that, she mentioned that this was a quality of life thing, and for those using the underground walkway is a nightmare because when people honk their horns, it captures a lot of the noise and echoes throughout. So it's needless to say, many council members approved this item for continued development. And like I said on the top of the hour, the site is open. Also, the city also moved to increase wages for firefighters on par with the fire levy. Daniel Carlino talks about Affordable Housing Trust Fund not going far enough to help provide services for those struggling to find housing. So here is City Council Member Daniel Carlino.
And using city resources to remove people who are camping that have no place to sleep at night. We seem to not be concerned about how much that's going to cost as a council, or how that's going to affect our city budget. But when it comes to funding more money towards affordable housing, there seems to be a lot of concern about how we're going to fund it. We have a lot of projects that we have requests for money from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for, and we as a council have the authority to help fund more of those projects by making this more of a budget priority. I see this resolution amendment as a small step forward to ensuring that we're going to put more money towards this Affordable Housing Trust Fund each year. This fiscal year, it got the bare minimum amount, and it would be a shame to see it get that again in the future. This in committee, this ended up on a 4-5 vote, so only a 1 vote difference. And I think if you polled our community, it would pass overwhelmingly that this is a budget priority and something worth using funds for. So I hope that we are open to putting more money towards this in the future, because we're not going to be able to make housing a human right unless we pump a lot more money consistently year after year into truly affordable housing.
Okay, and so that's just one of the many things that the city, Daniel Carlino, and even we have Christian Jordan, who also reflect on affordable housing, how it's not keeping up with houselessness. And as you might have seen, the city was advocating $200,000 for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. A lot of that money went to Habitat for Humanity last time. Some of the money went towards centralized housing solutions, the United Way of Missoula, and that's a big one because that also helps put money down for people to basically put a down payment for getting into a rental, so they don't have to come up with usually what a lot of rentals, especially people who don't have a history of rental, and they even just one little gap of renting history, you need to put down at least triple deposit just so you can actually get into a place. So some of the people who are struggling need that extra money that goes towards for that as well. And so we're going back to Christian Jordan, who gave comment on the same topic.
We need to spend more money on our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I mentioned last week that I met a young family in the park at Franklin Park who are living in a mobile home that is falling apart around their ears. They are being gouged for a rental space. This is a young family. One of them is a returning citizen. They have a brand new baby, and they don't know how they're going to afford to live here. And this is a really, really easy way for us to boost our affordable housing funds. And we're not doing it even though housing is a priority, and we can find money in other instances when we want to. And I see Mr. Nugent has his hand up, so I'm sure you're going to comment about my pushback on your proposal, but it really is going to make it so we can't bring these policies forward to discuss on the council floor and continue to bring issues that are important to our constituents without a minority consensus to even get them to the floor. Daniel needs to be able to continue to bring this forward. We need to keep having this conversation. We need to keep checking in with ourselves and see if we're giving a consistent message, because I would argue that a lot of folks on council are not giving a consistent message.
And so far, one of her big concerns is the fact that there's policy changes that are happening within the city of Missoula, and Mike Nugent, city council, responds to Carlino and Christian Jordan's concerns on the ordinance that would have at least a 4-person coalition to get things on a consent agenda, unlike now where anybody can do it during the meeting. And so this is what Mike Nugent had to say in response.
Councilwoman Jordan, I'm not sure if you were at committee on Wednesday, but I actually voted in support of this, and I intend to vote against the motion tonight in support, which will be the same vote Councilman Carlino makes and the same vote you make. And so I think that part of the message that you are pushing back against is kind of counterproductive, because I'm willing to be part of your coalition. But Mr. Carlino didn't talk to me ahead of time. You didn't talk to me ahead of time. I might have been able to help you on this. So I am supportive of this, but part of building coalitions and getting things forward is not sideswiping your colleagues without having all the facts. And I think it's really unfortunate that that's the tact you took tonight. And I also think that with a quick read of the rules as they are now, or potentially as they are in the future, you cannot say with certainty that anything wouldn't come forward, that everything is case by case.
Okay. And so that was Mike Nugent to wrap up this section of the City Council meeting as we dive into Budget and Finance Committee, which goes a little bit further on this particular topic in terms of how much money the city is willing to pay to upkeep the parks and provide services to those sheltering in these emergency sheltering overnight. So here is Donna Gockler, the Director of Parks and Recreation, talking about the budget proposal for Budget and Finance Committee. Essentially, this is they have departments that give pitches towards the city for extra money for certain services, and this is how it's to do with the urban camping, and this is what Donna Gockler had to say of part of this.
Missoula Municipal Code 1260, the urban camping ordinance, went into effect on July 25th, and tell everybody right up front, the windstorm has definitely halted our efforts for implementation of that ordinance because it's been all hands on deck of all of Public Works, most of Fire, and all of Parks and Recreation to clear, and we still have a long way to go on that. As it relates to the budget request and budget enhancement, there are a number of items in both parks and then code enforcement and public right-of-ways that the resolution and the ordinance are mandating staff to do. One is to allow camping in most parks, honoring buffer zones, to provide comfort and waste stations, so more portalets and garbage, sharps containers. One of the things that the ask will not include is security lockers at this point. We also have included things like Conex containers to hold items. And so there's a number of things that we've been asked to do through this. The camping, or what I'm going to call instead, the ordinance is camping, but the way we're referring to it is sheltering in parks. I think it is a better title because it more explains what is happening, that individuals are literally sheltering in parks and there is no recreational camping allowed in any of the parks or along the public.
And that is definitely one of the major takeaways from this particular thing is that they're allowing people to park overnight, but they're not allowing them to stay there. So any kind of sense of permanence is just not what the city wants to have. And they're looking to work with individuals and create an understanding with those needing to camp because they don't have access to shelter rather than letting folks do whatever they want up until this point. It's going to be rough, and Parks and Rec are currently working on post-storm issues in Missoula, as she mentioned. Jeremy Keene, Public Works and Mobility, talks about the basic access for campers, and this is what he had to say about that.
We're really just in the early stages of figuring out the vehicle sheltering program, but what we've looked at is a permit system that we could deploy in the field and make as easy as possible for folks. It would set up the kind of time, place, and manner restrictions around staying on city streets, and we would assist with identifying those locations that would be allowed for extended vehicle parking and camping, and with the idea that we hope to get better compliance and better management of all of the things that happen around folks that are sheltering in their vehicles with garbage and sanitation and trash pickup and things like that. So it's still in its early stages, and I know there's still a lot of questions from folks on how that's going to work. It's going to take some resources in order to manage the system, and I think that's important for you to understand that our ability to deploy this is going to really depend on the level of resource that we have, and how actively we can manage it will really depend on that staffing. So.
All right, and so there's a lot of money going towards this particular in terms of programming, hiring staff, and I'm going to go over it for basically $298,865. Up to $300,000 respectively, addition to their Parks and Rec budget for staffing, supplies, and professional service on top of one-time purchase of comfort/waste stations. They are planning to prevent trash cleanups and sweeps, as many folks in Missoula have been concerned about when removing a person's personal items from public spaces. Donna Gockler reflects on the uptick of use of these services from toilets to park availability for these stations to appear?
All those irrigation systems run at night on different systems, and the pumps and the lines are set up under certain pressure systems, so it's not just a shut, touch a button or turn a valve here or there. It's a significant change. Again, I still think this is the right thing because this helps us meet SEPTED and provide comfort stations. We are unable to do comfort stations down below riverbanks, in conservation lands. We're also trying to manage for fire, and later on we'll be managing for bear hyperphagia season. So that's the purpose of the additional employees. Supplies and materials. Much of this is really around the actual sheltering in place in the comfort stations.
All right, and so, you can see a lot of the numbers here, cleaning, restocking, that's basically what they've mostly been able to deal with is about $50,000 to $70,000 to just do the basic cleanup of most of these sites, regardless of this ordinance. Let's see. It is comprehensive, and they want to make sure that they can use the right parks for the right reasons with services, septic. Most of these things are on septic systems, so they need to get pumped and everything like that. They're not used to this certain volume of use, especially when it goes to overnight, so they have to react to that as well. This also is a way to keep track of folks using these designated sites, and so far many of these items taken from these sites are kept, but none of them have been necessarily claimed. Lost and found rarely get items returned after the first day. So for those looking to get into finding permits for cars, so people who live in their cars, live out there, Aaron Pian talks a little bit more about camping in cars and their permitting process. So this is, let's see, where am I? Yep, this is it.
What we have learned is that these programs are quite staff intensive. We have upwards of about 100 RVs in our community at any given time who are sheltering in their vehicles, RVs, cars, and camp trailers. As the program is directed through the ordinance and resolution, there are quite a few conditions that those campers have to meet, which require staff to physically go to each site or location, assess for buffers, assess whether other vehicles are already parked on and camping within certain feet of that site, so things that need to be assessed in real time. In addition,
all right, and so as you can also see here, is that this is another $343,597, and this is for people who are camping in their cars, not necessarily sheltering on park space and everything like that in terms of cleanup and whatnot. So different levels require different processes, and that's just more money going towards that. As you saw, the majority of these costs would be going to towing, simply because those costs would go to the owner of the vehicles, but they do not tend to pay because how much money do they have if they're living on the street? However, there are ways to getting towing from one section to town to another in terms of relocating rather than a full removal. Overall, this camping in your car will require a permit that lasts for 30 days with ability for 2 extensions, totaling 90 days before you have to move altogether. A lot of people camping in their cars, sometimes their cars don't even work in the first place, which is why they would require towing to move their car. And a lot of times, from what has been spoken during this particular meeting, if you want to go into it a little bit more, is that some people who get towed are just like, you can just toss it in the junker, I can't deal with this car anymore. Aaron Pian talks about the sum total request of the service they're asking for. And if you haven't already read in the article, it's definitely going to be quite an expensive endeavor as the city looks forward to this as well.
We are expanding to meet the expectations laid out in the ordinance, including tipping up that vehicle sheltering program, the expanded maintenance and safety FTEs required to meet those new time, place, and manner restrictions for camping and public property, supplies and materials, which includes those comfort stations, as well as those expanded contract services. So all in all, when we look at both budgets combined, it's about $1 million in expenses to start those implementation tasks for the ordinance and continue doing what we were doing throughout our encampment response for FY24.
And part of the pause. Okay. And part of the deal going into this session as well is that the budget is requesting some more money, which is going to be the $642,000. But then because of this ordinance and camping and stuff that being done, they're throwing about $359,000 into the current budget so they could, or allocating the current budget to help with this process as they're doing this with code compliance, safety coordination, garbage and towing, limited contracted services, just basic services that the city is providing and how much it costs for the city to do things for these particular matters. So as you might have seen in the news recently, with the city budget was over $200 million. Mind you, that money isn't necessarily the money that they're taking away from taxes. This has a lot to do with the fact that there are a lot to do with grants, money towards your typical city county taxes, grants from federal dollars. Missoula has also had a major Build Back Better grants awarded to the city for many infrastructure projects totaling over $1 million. And to go into the budget even further, because this is just a budget request for their budget and committee meetings, you can go to ci.missoula.mt.us or you can go to engagemissoula.com for everything. The city on their blog where you can send comments and questions for city staff. Up next, we do have a fun video for you guys. This is from our camp week from last week. It's called Good Cop, Nature Cop from our movie making camp that we did last week. So without further ado, here's this. And when I come back, we're going to talk about some movies.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Violence.
Why did you do it? Where's the weapon? Why?
Maybe that wasn't the best interrogation.
Yeah, maybe.
You ever heard of Nature Guy?
Nature Guy?
My God.
Time to get revenge.
Now that you've entered my tower, I will send all of my forces to make sure that you do not reach the top. Good luck.
Watch me.
finish it off before the boss gets back.
Aw, you're no fun.
Oh no, here's me. Let's get back to work.
Prepare for trouble.
Make it double.
Detective Blast.
As you might guess, I did kill your father. Now that you come here for revenge, you'll meet the same fate that he did. Violence.
This is for my father.
Hey guys, we are back, and we're here to talk about some movies that are coming out this weekend. It's time for Pre-Critic, where I prejudge a movie based on absolutely nothing but my own biases towards movies in general. We got some extra movies that I didn't get a chance to get to, and so we're going to throw a little bit of throwback to some of the movies that came out just this last month. But first and foremost, the movies that are coming out this weekend is another M. Night Shyamalan movie that's coming out following a man who is pushed too far to take his daughter to a Taylor adjacent Swift concert, only to find out that it's a sting operation to catch the dad, who is also a killer. Anyways, he's a serial killer type with a sharp brain, but when work life and family obligations collide, you get a thriller that seems that it'll take a little bit of a sci-fi horror direction to new directions. While his daughter, M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, jumped into the chance to direct, he's back to the Cabin in the Woods film for his stadium thriller with a vast cast of must outmaneuver to get out before being caught. So I'm assuming he probably does get caught in some way or some form, or at least like some kind of like major thing happens towards the end and whatnot. All right, Harold and the Purple Crayon. We have yet another family film about a boy who gets a magical crayon that helps him create anything he can draw. What can go wrong, right? As he grows up on the pages of a children's book, imagination comes to life in the form of a man-boy with a heart of gold as he navigates the real world. So it's basically like Elf, and they're trying to basically get him to see how the real world acts, and he uses a magic crayon to cause chaos, and then people say, like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that, that's not cool, and then he's just like, okay, I learned my lesson. I learned a little bit of reality, but I'm going to show a little bit of fantasy to make people happy because reality stinks, and why don't we just keep dreaming and forget about reality for a second. So that's basically what the movie is, and those are the two new movies that are coming out this weekend. And as we jump in, we're going to throw it over to the new Deadpool movie. We have the newest Marvel movie, which takes a side quest from the Loki series, to the Merc in the Mouth, who is clearly making the bills through the injection of the MCU after they bought 20th Century Fox and all those little X-Men. I saw this film already and cannot pre-critic this movie. Simply put, this movie is more Deadpool and Fox property than it'll ever be a normal MCU film that just kind of flops around saying multiverse again and again. Finally, we have Twisters, yet another Hollywood cash grab to take a good film from the 90s action thriller and inject a little bit of Glenn Powell's charm, as he is easily becoming one of those actors people are being like, oh yeah, that guy from Top Gun Maverick, and he's in other things too. Enjoy a typical girl haunted by trauma, only for the free-spirited man to calm her stuck-up heart as she tries to figure out how to stop twisters and not just study them, like in the last film. Enjoy your series of YouTube Storm Chaser cringe for this one as the Weather Channel takes on independent journalists. And then finally, we got a movie called Long Legs. So this is supposed to be one of those movies where it's like, remember Silence of the Lambs? This is kind of like what it's all about. And so some would call this the Silence of the Lambs of the decade. I would simply put it as a cop lady gets in way over her head as she takes on the occult in this thriller horror. I bet this film is what most films couldn't, inject a little realism into the evil hearts of man as they take on a very real type of threat that could impact us, any small town, because everyone knows nothing bad could ever happen in a small town. All right, those are the movies that are coming out or already out. And up next, we have a fun dub and stuff for you guys, bringing that back after a while. And this is The Night the Earth Exploded from the 1957 colorized film.
All right, hurry up. We got to get going. Get inside. Here, I'll hold the door for you. Out of the way. Get out of the way. This is important. Move.
There he is.
Shoot.
Hey, I got some
Get
questions
out
for
of
you.
here. No, please, no. Get out of here. But Jehovah starts with an I.
I told him once, and I told him one more time. Don't ever go chase waterfalls. Oh, hey.
Sorry we're late. We're running on California time. I suppose I'll get started. Well, all right. So, as you guys know, more and more millennials...
Don't talk about millennials. They're not in charge yet.
That might be true. We're not the largest population in the world. Cut to close-up, but they are the most important ones.
The future is now, old man.
This is preposterous. Can we move on? Preposterous, eh? Well, have you looked at the numbers lately? Boomers are dropping.
Boomers have the technology to live forever.
Perhaps for a little bit longer, but not for very long. Boomers are aging out. It's just the way of things.
Well, I don't plan on aging anytime soon.
Well, maybe not now, but... Have you ever walked down the stairs and heard some crackling in your ankles and been like, oh, that kind of feels good? Well, that's a precursor to, and before you know it, you'll be looking at landscape and talking about the good old days.
Oh, he's right.
Well, I'm not saying that it's the end of the world just because you're getting older.
I certainly do, so get out of the way. With all due respect, after all, don't you want to retire and just enjoy your life?
I've never enjoyed anything in my life.
Well, perhaps maybe start a nonprofit. You know, leave the private sector, and do all sorts of fun things. Like, Parcheesi and fondue fountains.
Do you obviously expect us to lie down and die and let you run things?
Well, progress comes in all shapes and sizes, except for triangles. Those things are nasty things.
Well, aren't most things made of triangles?
Yes, unless you're some kind of loser weirdo, most things are made of triangles. But in this case, we're not talking about triangles.
They cut pizza into triangles.
The adults are talking. Please shut up. All right, let's talk some more business.
All right, we are back, and now we're going to dust off some of the silliness and dive right into a little bit more of the things that are happening in and around the city of Missoula. It is First Friday. And First Friday is all about that art here in the city of Missoula. It's a great excuse for people to go out on a Friday night from 5 to 8 p.m., look at some art, and without further ado, we're going to jump right into your first art piece featured at the Four Ravens Gallery. This is called Fibers Reimagined. Karen Strait and Melissa Thompson, as well as gallery artists Julie King, Angie Everden, and Judith Colvin for the latest on contemporary fiber art. And music is going to be by Carl Dede. So this is a little hint of what you guys can expect from Four Ravens, which is right next to Dana Gallery. And we also have Body Politics. This is the one that is being featured at the Missoula Art Museum. Bodies have always been a point of control, debate, and controversy within our society. In Body Politics, printmakers Christy Carlton and Tanja Torgerson, make a work of highlights of the tumultuous positions of body and gender roles. Their collaborative prints focused on political themes associated with the figurative nudes. I actually got a chance to look at this, and it was pretty impactful, and this is on the top floor of the Missoula Art Museum. They used letter prints and screen prints and woodcuts. These prints reference broadsides and use of their impact on print media and to destabilize current ideas on gender roles and bodies. Mailing these prints back and forth from Indiana to Montana, the artists have responded to one another and those topic layer by layer, building a dialogue across the country, and within each print, stark nude figures are combined with bold, aggressive text that challenge the expectations which are put upon them. And that's the Missoula Art Museum. All that. Then we got Biome, group show at the Wildfire Ceramic Art Studio. Bio/Me is an exhibit of 4 women artists from Missoula who work in their medium printmaking, painting, photography, mixed media, and ceramics. The artwork in this show explores our human connection with the earth, especially the relationship of the human body and terrestrial body. How do we see ourselves in nature, and how does it show us who we are? As we look forward to finding solutions to environmental problems, an important step in healing involves reconnecting ourselves to nature. This includes finding appreciation and wonder in the natural world around us, finding metaphors and poetry in the earth that we can learn from and live by, and seeing ourselves in the building relationships with the land. The arc of Biome explores the themes and shows us the intimate connections that human and nature has. So this is going to Wild Ceramic Studios, and it kicks off at 5 p.m. Then we got another ceramic studio called the Clay Studio of Missoula, and they're doing a thing called Bloat. This is Tessa Honig, celebrates the conclusion of her time as resident artist at the Clay Studio. And since arriving at the studio, Tessa has seemed to make work out of anything but clay, and is excited to present her first collection of multimedia works. The most recent work investigates personal questions surrounding food and consumerism. Each person has been taught specific values regarding food and thus has certain baggage relating to food. Food is is wrapped up in money, profit, and security. It is thus inherently at the whims of industry, which has little sympathy for the environment and the worker. Food is also inseparable from the issue of convenience, eating disorders, and mental health. How should humans make practical decisions regarding how we eat without inherently hurting someone, someone, or even themselves? So, kind of speaking off the cuff, food is the most addictive necessity a human can need. Tessa Honig is a sculptor dedicated to creating objects that feel abundant, textural, and overwhelming physical dreamscapes of her overactive imagination. So you can check this out. She was originally from Fort Collins, Colorado, earned her BFA in pottery in 2020 at Colorado State University. After graduating, she moved to Missoula and was granted a 2-year position at the Post-Baccalaureate School of the University of Montana. And Tessa is the current long-term resident of the Clay Studio of Missoula. So this is what you guys can expect. This is a little taste of that. And as we go on, we're going on to a show at the Artist Shop called Wild and Free by Lee Fire. Experience the emotions and beauty of wild animals in their natural habitats through the art of photography. Based in Helena, Lee's work is done while exploring her backyard, which comprises lakes, valleys, prairies, and streams of the Rocky Mountains. Her philosophy on wildlife photography is to capture wild animals in their natural habitat, the landscape where they roam, bringing to life the essence of animals and its behaviors as seen in nature, not in a zoo, wildlife farm, or wildlife safari. We also have Throwback, which is at the Confluence Center. This is an amalgamation of a lot of different art. Residents of Von Common artists include Lady Pajama, and reveal in a spirit of past while listening to the musical stylings of wailing Erin Jennings. So this is going to be at the Confluence Center, and you guys can check that out today. Then we got Jules Lucuro. This is the AM Pop-Up Gallery at the Ren, Missoula. This month it features Jules, a printmaking based in Missoula, 2020 University of Montana graduate with a BFA in painting and drawing and a minor in art history and criticism. They hone their skills at the open air residency in the Phillipsburg, Montana, and she specializes in relief print using paper ink, fabric, and hand embroidery. Her work explores themes of nature and motion and the dynamics between animals, predators, and prey. So that's what you guys can expect in that one. And then finally, at the Dana Gallery, we're going to wrap this up. This collection of the brightly colored, thickly textured oil paintings reflect Kira's deep love for Montana. Montana Spirit series is visual country song. It is the autobiography of sorts. She grew up and lived in Missoula, in Montana, and paint people, land, animals, and culture that they know and enjoy sharing these songs with others. Due to the three-dimensional quality of Kira's work, you won't want to miss the viewing of this show in person. Her freestanding totems are truly sculptural paintings, and you can meet Kira in person and sing along with this exquisite show. So that's going to be at the Dana Gallery, and that's going to wrap up my First Friday. Of course, there's always First Friday events happening. These are the ones that are featured at the art galleries. So this is your art guide for Missoula. And without further ado, I'm going to throw you guys over to an art clip from 2017. And this is Chris Papan's Ghost Images, and this was at the Missoula Art Museum in 2017. Yep, a bit of a shout out to our older Rick Phillips, who passed away last year, and I wanted to kind of show some of his old art, and most of his stuff is available on MCAT's YouTube channel at MCAT TV Missoula or at MCAT Television. So there's that, and we're going to talk a little bit about events that are happening in and around the city of Missoula. While First Friday is going on, here are some of the rest of the stuff. Missoula Public Library hosts a Library Adventures scavenger hunt. So this is going to go on until August 24th of this month. The library must be explored. Pick up a library scavenger hunt sheet at the second floor and start your quest. Follow the clues and find letters hidden throughout the library. Once you follow the letters, solve the puzzle and receive a prize. That's happening all month long. Missoula Food Bank meal distribution starting at 10 a.m. This is at the Missoula Food Bank. Great way for people to get access to food. They have an Empower Place Learning Center for kids to learn to read and also have their own story time. It's a great opportunity to use some of the resources at the library, but at the Missoula Food Bank. So they also have a butterfly release happening at 10:30 a.m. This is the Missoula Butterfly House and Insectarium. It's a great opportunity for people to learn about bugs and support their local insectarium. Tiny Tales at the Park, Missoula Public Library. During the summer, they are hosting a Parks and Rec, are teaming up to bring Tiny Tales to the park every Friday at 10:30 a.m. This is at the Sherwood side of the park under let's see, it's at the Lowell School. And if weather permitting, they will have the Tiny Tales held in the Lowell School gym or cafeteria. Also, there's the Missoula Senior Center. Also has a lunch at the 11:30 a.m. This is at the Missoula Senior Center. Great way for aging adults, 55 and older, get cheap, nutritious food. Also, the Poverello Center has their normal hours in which they do daily, 1 in the morning, afternoon for lunchtime, and then 1 in the evening. Sorry, I'm just kind of talking off the cuff. And also, library has free lunches for kids 18 and under. during the summer months through the Missoula Food Bank from 11:30 to about 1 p.m. every weekday, from Monday through Friday. Also, as always, yarns at Missoula Public Library. If you want to learn to stitch, crochet, make your own clothes, they do it weekly, every Friday at noon on the 4th floor of the Blackford Boardroom. All Abilities Art Club at BASE. BASE is a great opportunity for a lot of people with disabilities to find ways to reconnect and work with other people in their situation to help work with art, various things. They also do stand-up comedy as well, and so they're a great resource for a lot of people here in Missoula. Hands-on Science, Nano Inventions. This is the Spectrum Discovery Center. They always have a new exhibit every month or a new theme. It's a great way for kids to get hands-on science. Young Writers Group is every Friday at 3:30 p.m. at the Missoula Public Library, and also Summertime Lego Club at 4 p.m. during the summer, it is a great opportunity for people to get access to Legos, but also have some access to snacks and food. Cornbread Rocks at the Resource. The Home Resource is hosting a music and art by local musicians and artists at 5 p.m., and it's going to be featuring Cornbread Rocks, the band. First Friday at Level. This is at Missoula Public Library as a 9-month program. It's Level, spelled L-E-V-L, is a 9-month program focused on providing caregivers with lived experience the opportunity to explore new skills, share their stories, learn about advocacy, and build an intentional community. Photographers from this program spent over 2 months capturing their worlds, crafting the biographies, and writing their artist statements. Come to Level 4 to look at the photojournalist series of Motherhood in Missoula, and this is going to be at the Missoula Public Library at 6 p.m. Western Union, swing music at Imagination Brewing Company at 6 p.m. Ween is going to be featured at 2 nights at the Kiddos Amphitheater starting tonight at 6:30 p.m. Missoula Outdoor Cinema is doing kind of like a craft fair. Then they have a showing later that night as the sun goes down. Mamma Mia will be playing at Head Start Park, Head Start School, that area on the north side. You can't miss it. Isaac Opatz and Stephen Van Betten at Free Cycles could be playing some folk music starting at 7 p.m. They're doing a beer night at the Missoula Paddleheads. I believe they're going against Great Falls, starting at 7 p.m. for a doubleheader, and another one on Saturday. Miscast is doing a production at the Showtime Performance Arts Center. Frustrated writer and radio announcer Opal just wanted to spend a few days relaxing with her partner at a family cabin, but it's August in Montana, and heavy forest fires have sequestered the pair indoors. And so get to enjoy this play based on this, these kind of events, kicking off tonight and going until August 11th. You can look at more information by going to the Showtime website. The Timber Rattlers is going to be playing some bluegrass music at the Old Post parking lot. So a lot of times they put on outdoor shows during the first Friday night events. Left on 10th is going to be playing at the Cranky Sam Public House, playing some funk music. Disco Party at the Tress-Bon. They're doing disco nights Fridays and Saturday nights at 8 p.m. I believe that they stole that from our disco dance party for the Saturday kids event, but I'm just speculating at this point. The Sun, the Hurricane, live at Monk's. We'll be playing some funk music and other miscellaneous music starting at 10 p.m. to wrap up your your Friday as we get into Saturday with all the markets and such. People's Market, River Street Market, and then you got the OG Farmers Market. This happens roughly from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's a great opportunity for people to do that. Also, Farmers Market has a flow yoga with ritual yoga. It's adjacent to the market by the Clark Fork River at Best Reed Park. Do some yoga, stretch it out, and then go for a long walk across all the different markets in downtown Missoula. All that starts at 9 a.m. And then also Base Missoula is doing a play by David Templeton for Galatea. This is about science fiction exploration of what it means to be human in a world of rapidly advancing technology. Galatea, I believe isn't that the one with Ethan Hawke, where he has to prove that he's a pure specimen? But I'm not entirely sure. This might be an original thing for Base, so they're doing auditions for that starting at 9 a.m. at Base Missoula. English as a second language class. This is a great way for people through Soft Landing Missoula and people who are coming into Missoula from other countries. English as a second language class at Missoula Public Library, Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. Montana Brewery running series. So Imagination Brewing Company has encouraged people to run by giving them beer. And so this is a 5K fun run within Imagination Brewing Company, part of the 2024 Montana Brewery running series. fun-filled day of running, beer, and good vibes from Imagination Brewing Company. Makerspace walk-in hours. This is a great way for people to utilize the 3D printer and laser scanner, laser engraver here at the Missoula Public Library at 10 a.m. So this is most Saturdays at 10 a.m. It's a great way for people to get involved and work on some stuff. They also have a sewing supplies there for people who want to fix their clothes. We also have story time here at the Missoula Public Library every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. Moon Randolph Homestead has their open hours at 11 a.m. But yeah, they have summer learning program, Missoula Public Library, summer collaboration, adventure begins at your library. Musicians and games, exhibits, and boundless for all ages, and help us bid farewell to summer filled with adventure, learning, and fun. So we're going to be wrapping up the summer here at the Missoula Public Library and want to have a special event for everyone. Tot Fest at the Dark Horse Bar starting at 1 p.m. This is for the Washington Children's Shelter. They're going to have 19 bands, tater tot eating competitions starting at 1 p.m. on Saturday at the Dark Horse Bar. Electronics for beginners. Missoula Public Library is doing an event at Makerspace from 3 to 4 p.m. All ages, but 10 is recommended. This is learning basic electronics using the Arduino system. Arduino's combined software coding and hardware to do a widely variety of things. It's a great way to learn basics of circuitry, coding, and more. History of Swan Valley Dude Ranches at the Swan Valley Museum, starting at 3 p.m. If you want to learn about those dude ranches in the Swan Valley, they'll have at their Swan Valley Museum starting at 3 p.m. And then we have some late night events with some bands and such. So we're going to have blues music at Imagination Brewing Company featuring Brendan Nolan at 6 p.m. Weenie is going to do their night 2 at Kettle Amphitheater at 6:30 p.m. Tie-Dye at Oregon Park at Allegiance Fields. It's Paddleheads against Great Falls. Rod Morrison at Draftworks Brewing Company playing some rock music. Lost Trail Summer Slam at the Lost Trail Ski Area at the Rock Concert at 7 p.m. Solid Sound Karaoke and the Dodge Bowl Lounge, West Side Lanes and Fun Center. DJ Chris Moon every Saturday at 10 p.m. at the Badlander. So Sundays, if you want to do some salsa dance classes, 1 p.m. Rocky Mountain Ballet Theater, Sunday afternoon. Also has a native plant garden immersion summer session, Montana Natural History Center, starting at 3 p.m. Strings and Shadow Puppet Theater. Free Cycles Missoula is doing theater at 7 p.m. at Free Cycles. Voice winners, a girl named Tom, get a little lost tour. Folk music at Denison Theater. Trio notably made history for the group to ever win NBC's The Voice, and it'll be featured at Sunday night at the Denison Theater at 7:30 p.m. Then you have open mic comedy at the VFW at 8 p.m. And then you got some karaoke at the Center Saloon to wrap up your Sunday night. So those are events, and there's always plenty of events. If you go to MissoulaEvents.net, it is a wonderful way for just to know what's going on here in the city of Missoula. And before I die of a coughing fit, definitely a lot of smoke in the air in the city of Missoula as we kind of get off the cuff of all this stuff that happened this last month with the Miller Peak fire. And like I said, and I've said this before, and of course, you know, you have InnoCeneweb, which talks about wildfires and the map of kind of like the fires that are happening in around the United States. So if we take a look at the map right here, I'm going to show you guys a little bit of this. It's a great resource for people. You can go to InnoCeneweb. It's like incident website, and you can look at all these different things, you know, Idaho fires. We're going to go over here to see what the fires are. We have the Miller Peak fire, which is 2,724 acres. It's 65% contained. It hasn't been updated in 13 hours. A little smoky out there. We also have that other fire that is 100% contained. It's the Butler Creek fire. And then, of course, one of the big fires that happened was Helena and the Horse Gulch fire, which saw 15,000 acres get burned, and they are currently at 100% contained. So they haven't updated for 6 days, and looks like they got that on lock. So for more information about that, like I said, you can go to incident fires. You can Google fire reports and all this kind of stuff happening, but those are the things that are affecting Montana. I also wanted to mention 2 weeks or 13 days to be more specific. The state of Montana, if you are a property owner, you'll be able to get a $675 tax rebate for you guys. So you just have to apply. Application opens up on August 15th. I'm sure you've gotten all those postcards and more. So it's $675, but only for people who are property owners. So I wanted to mention that. And for Wake Up Missoula, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and take care.